Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Go, right shoulder, arm.
We live in a day where sometimes people confuse disability and inability. Today, we're here to honor those who are very capable and able. So let's bow and give thanks to God. Gracious and eternal God, we give you thanks for your faithfulness. And we thank you for all of those that will be recognized today, capable and able men and women who embody character and strength and fortitude, who work hard on behalf of those in service. We thank you for their faithful and diligent work, and we pray, dear Lord, that their recognition would be a credit to themselves, their teammates, their families. We ask that you would watch over these proceedings today and that you would remind us all that hard work pays off. Perseverance pays off. We look to you now, putting our hope and our trust in you. In the name of the Lord we pray. Amen.
Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. At this time, it's my distinct honor to welcome you to the Secretary of Defense 39th Annual Disability Awards. And at this time, I'd ask you to please help me welcome to the podium and provide a very warm welcome indeed to Mr. Clarence A. Johnson, Director of the Diversity Management Operations Center, Defense Human Resources Activity.
Colonel Shan, thank you so much for that warm welcome. Secretary Esper, distinguished guests, award winners, ladies and gentlemen. It is with great pleasure that I today welcome you to this 39th Annual DoD Defense Disability Awards ceremony. Disability is a term often refused with inability. Certainly all our winners today have certain great abilities. Thank you for being here today as we recognize military service members, as we recognize DoD civilian employees, and of course components, including one military department, for their exemplary achievement. Please join me now in welcoming for his remarks the 27th Secretary of Defense, the Honorable Mark Esper.
CJ told me he was going to introduce me, and I said, keep it short. That was short. That was great. I appreciate that. But thank you, CJ, for that very nice introduction. I am really very honored to be here today with all of you to celebrate the invaluable contributions of individuals with disabilities across the Department of Defense. So thank you very much for inviting me here this morning. I'd like to begin by thanking Secretary Jimmy Stewart. Where are you? There he is, over there. Thank you and the Personnel and Readiness Team, as well as the Diversity Management Operations Center, for their continued efforts to recruit and support the thousands of people with disabilities in our workforce. It's fitting that this year's theme for National Disability Employment Awareness Month is the right talent right now. That's because our men and women, many of you, wounded warriors and civilians alike, all bring to the job the skills that are critical to accomplishing our mission exactly when they are needed the most, which is right now. I've said many times in the past that people are our most important resource. That remains as true as ever. The diversity of backgrounds and talents across the department is what drives our ingenuity. The impact of each individual working as part of a team is what guarantees mission success. And the strength of our workforce is what allows us to embrace every challenge and to take on every threat at home and abroad. Today, we are honoring 23 service members and civilians for their remarkable achievements. They are joining us from all over the country, from Hawaii to Texas, from Colorado to New York. Their stories are different, as are their areas of expertise, but all of them embody the spirit of service that defines our workforce, much like one of the leaders you'll hear from today, Captain Rob Hufford. Rob was diagnosed with epilepsy and underwent brain surgery while in the Air Force. After his retirement, he became an ambassador and mentor to fellow airmen through the Air Force Wounded Warrior Program. He became a champion, winning big at last year's Warrior Games in Colorado. He also won gold, silver, and bronze at the 2018 Invictus Games in Australia, which I attended and was honored to cheer on him and the rest of Team USA. They did a remarkable job. And he became the leader of a mission-critical project at Offutt Air Force Base in Nebraska. He and each of our honorees today are inspiring models of selfless service for all of us. Today, we're also recognizing 4 organizations for their leadership in the hiring, retention, and advancement of individuals with disabilities. The Department of the Army, Defense Logistics Agency, National Reconnaissance Office, and Joint Staff have made great strides to build a total force that grows more diverse and more effective by the day. However, we can and must do more to harness the skills of a largely untapped pool of talent. Individuals with disabilities are unemployed at twice the rate of the national average, even though many of them have the training, skills, and experience our country needs, particularly in the STEM disciplines. We must do our part across the department to harness those talents and help bridge the employment gap. That means we must continue to eliminate barriers to recruitment across the force. We must give everyone the opportunity to succeed and support them as they advance in their careers. We must continue to recognize our workers' unique contributions and their leadership. And we must leverage each of their strengths to allow the United States Armed Forces to maintain the technological edge and military superiority for which we are so well known. This year marks the 29th anniversary of the landmark Americans with Disabilities Act, which became a global standard for non-discrimination and equal opportunity. Today, let's recommit to upholding that legacy. Let's shape our force into one that is united by something much stronger than our differences. That is, our dedication and passion for the mission, regardless of background or disability. To the Americans who have chosen to use their talents and energies in the defense of our great nation, I thank you on behalf of the entire Department of Defense. As you continue to strengthen lethality and readiness of the world's greatest fighting force, know that we are honored to serve alongside you. Thank you very much for your time today, and once again, congratulations to all of this year's honorees.
Yeah, certainly thanks to the Secretary for taking time from his schedule to be here today, and certainly for his remarks on the impact of diversity of our workforce on the DoD mission. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, you can do better than that. Come on now. Come on, you're here in the Pentagon auditorium. Many of you here for the first time. We're here to celebrate excellence. Let's try it again. Good afternoon. Thank you so very much. And having so many of the department's senior leaders here today is consistent with the Secretary's comments, as this reflects the Department's appreciation of the contribution of persons with disabilities to the DoD mission. So thanks to all of you for being here to help us celebrate on this important occasion. And I'd be remiss if I did not recognize and thank for joining us today, actually the person who started this DoD Disability Award ceremony some 39 years ago. He is the former Acting Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Equal Opportunity, Mr. Clay Harden. Please give Mr. Harden a round of applause. And certainly a hearty congratulations to our awardees, to each of the 23 service members and civilians being honored today. Thank you for your outstanding service and for lending your talents to this great department. Additionally, congratulations to the 4 components being awarded for their exemplary employment practices in promoting, hiring, retaining, and advancing individuals with disabilities, certainly which enhance the readiness of our total force. You know, in his proclamation to celebrate the 29th anniversary of the American with Disabilities Act, President Trump stated, as I quote, "Our nation is building on the precedent of the ADA by taking further steps to ensure opportunity for all Americans. We are making extraordinary strides in removing obstacles that stand in the way of those with disabilities to lead healthy, self-sufficient, and independent lives." End of quote. The President's statements reflect the government's commitment to remove the obstacles that many individuals with disabilities experience when seeking employment. The right talent, right now. The Secretary spoke of the matter that individuals with disabilities are unemployed at twice the rate of the national average, although many in this untapped market possess the education, the skills, and the experience this nation needs. The federal government has committed to addressing this unemployment disparity by providing opportunities and programs to increase the number of employees with disabilities within the federal government. Now, research shows us that there are a wide range of benefits to hiring persons with disabilities. They are loyal employees with high retention rates and low turnover. They are reliable, they are punctual, and they are highly productive. Additionally, increasing diversity in our workforce results in increased innovation, creativity, insight, and employee engagement, which ultimately translates into increased production. Of course, this month, October, is National Disability Employment Awareness Month. At this celebration of that national observance period, DoD reaffirms our commitment to create a diverse and inclusive workforce and recognizes that the inclusion of individuals with disabilities is essential to maintaining a diverse and strong total force. DoD has taken this commitment one step further to only not increase the number of people with disabilities in the workforce, but also to become a model employer for the individuals with disabilities, including disabled veterans. DoD has created a number of programs to enlist the right talent and create opportunities with people with disabilities. This includes the WRP, the Workforce Recruitment Program, Operation Warfighter, and the Wounded Warrior Program. Each of these initiatives has been instrumental in increasing the numbers of employees with disabilities in DoD. They provide individuals opportunities to prepare for full-time employment while allowing them to showcase their skills and abilities. And speaking of showcasing skills and abilities of DoD members, we are so pleased today to recognize 23 outstanding service members and DoD civilians with disabilities for their contribution to the mission of the DoD. Our individual awardees are a diverse group of people from different components, different geographic regions, and working in a variety of positions. They are credited with streamlining systems, initiating cost-saving measures, identifying lost resources, creating accountability of services and resources, but most importantly, their talents, passion, and expertise make a tremendous impact on our mission. To our awardees, thank you for your dedication to the mission and your contributions to strengthening the readiness of our all-volunteer force. Now, while we will only recognize 4 components today for their achievements, I'm pleased to report that all components are making progress to advance inclusion and opportunities for individuals with disabilities and wounded warriors throughout the DoD. The department continues to benefit from your efforts and I encourage continued growth and progress. The 4 components we are recognizing today have successfully utilized DoD's disability programs and resources to provide paid internships for individuals with disabilities, which allow them an opportunity to demonstrate their skills and qualifications while gaining valuable work experience. Additionally, these components have successfully utilized the special hiring authorities to transition the best of these participants into the permanent DoD workforce, as well as using those special hiring authorities to bring new talent to the department. Now, recognizing that just hiring veterans and individuals with disabilities is not enough to make DoD a model employer for people with disabilities, the other components have created strategic plans to address access to technology and DoD information systems by those who use assistive technology. They have created processes to address the timely provision of reasonable accommodations and included a means to fund and provide necessary personal assistance services to those with targeted disabilities who require such assistance. These services help individuals with disabilities perform and succeed in their positions, which increases retention and advancement opportunities. I commend all of you on the advancements made thus far. I look forward to continuing our work together to hire and advance individuals with disabilities. In closing, I again congratulate the awardees for their strong performance, their exceptional achievements. I want to especially thank their supervisors and the leadership for recognizing their excellence, and their office teammates and their family members for their continuing support. I also congratulate again the components. The department appreciates your success in increasing employment opportunities for individuals with disabilities. Thank you all for being here to recognize our honorees for their outstanding service to this great department. It is now my honor and pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Lawrence Rob Hufford II. Rob is a member of the 55th Civil Engineer Squadron, Offutt Air Force Base, Nebraska, where he serves as lead on an installation runway replacement effort, which Secretary Esper said is a mission-critical impact on the base. Rob is a 2006 graduate of the Air Force Academy, where he played football, he threw the shot put, and majored in civil engineering. Now, I met Rob by phone earlier this week, and I was struck by his attitude, his indeed sincere passion to help others, and his genuine good guy nature. During Rob's military service, he was stationed in a variety of locations. He was deployed to Iraq twice and served until July 2017, when he was medically retired. And in addition to his Air Force duties, Rob is a member of the Air Force Wounded Warrior Program, where he serves to share his story, to raise awareness about the visible and invisible wounds experienced by many men and women in our military. As an athlete, Rob has represented the Air Force and the U.S. in the Warrior and Invictus Games, achieving personal bests while winning 4 gold medals and 1 silver medal in the Warrior Games in Colorado last year, and 1 gold, 1 silver, and 2 bronze medals in the 2018 Invictus Games in Sydney, Australia. Now, I hope Rob shares with you today his meeting in Australia with the Duke and the Duchess of Sussex. And if he doesn't, I would like you to Google Prince Harry bear hug. Again, Prince Harry bear hug. This was an astounding international encounter. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our keynote speaker, Rob Hufford.
You ready? All right, before I start, let's have a special thank you to our translators over here. I'm gonna make her work today. Good afternoon and congratulations. It is truly an honor to be your guest speaker today. I know I'm looking out at an extraordinary group of Americans, and you should all be very proud of your accomplishments. So thank you. So what's my story? You've heard some of it already. As a boy, I looked up to my father and I wanted to be exactly like him. To do that, I made 3 goals for myself. First, I was going to play football for Notre Dame and win a national championship there. And then I was going to become a podiatrist and follow in his footsteps and take over his practice. As I progressed and grew of age, my athletic prowess grew also, and I started to get phone calls and visits from multiple coaches. And then came a very fateful day where the O-line coach from Notre Dame called and he informed me that they would not be offering me a scholarship. Shortly thereafter, I received a phone call from the Air Force offensive line coach who said he would offer me a full ride scholarship. I accepted. Little did I know everybody at the Air Force Academy or any academy gets a full ride scholarship. But I was so proud. And yes, I just said that I attended an academy to play football. I didn't go there for faith of country. I went there to fulfill a childhood dream of playing football on Saturday afternoons in the fall. I soon learned, however, that I did enjoy the military and that I could appreciate the different components of its structure. Fast forward 4 years, and I'm graduating with a civil engineering degree. Yes, I am not a doctor. I am 0 for 3. But hey, I had a job. I did well. Grades were so-so, but I did well for myself. How did the Air Force thank me and reward me for my time at the academy? They sent me to Minot Air Force Base. Why not Minot? Yes. I quickly learned, however, that this was not a bad assignment, and I did enjoy my time. I got to use my degree, and I was tasked to deploy, not once, but twice. Before my second deployment, I met a gorgeous, smart young lady who was also a pharmaceutical sales rep. We hit it off and quickly fell in love. We decided that when I got home from that tasking that we would get married. So yeah, Minot's not all that bad. In Iraq, I learned that I really loved the Air Force and my job. I felt like I was actually making a difference. And those 2 tours over those 3 years, they really cemented my passion for service. With those tours and time in Minot came multiple awards and recognition. So where did I get to go next? Cavalier Air Force Station. Anybody? Find Grand Forks, drive until you hit Canada, and hang a left. Yeah, Mother Air Force for the win. Thank you. This assignment turns out to be not too bad. We actually really enjoyed it. But my time in Cavalier is when I started having my fuzzy spells. They started about 1 a month, and as my time progressed at that assignment, 1 a month turned into 1 a week. 1 a week turned into 2 weeks. And then I got my next assignment. Finally, I win one. Lagos, Portugal. Yes. So as we're preparing to PCS, we go on our going away motorcycle ride, spend all day in a nice hot July afternoon riding around the rural hills of North Dakota. And when I get home, I can't cool off. I don't know what it is. I've been drinking water all day, water. And I continued to drink all night, and I couldn't cool off. Finally, I figured, you know what? I'll fall asleep, and that'll help me. I wake up 15 minutes later with a fireman holding my wrist and my wife mortified in the corner. Just absolutely scared. I don't know what's going on. But once they realize that I'm good enough to walk, they usher me to the ambulance. I spend the night in the hospital. They do an EKG to determine that I had a grand mal seizure. And then they let me PCS. When I landed at Lagos, in-processing checklist. The other was my out-processing checklist. I had been tasked to deploy to Afghanistan. Yes. I had just spent 2 years at Cavalier. My buddies do work downrange, and I missed it. and I was back in the fight, and I couldn't wait. So I went around base, in processing and out processing, and I get a phone call to come see the Surgeon General. It was on my checklist. I went and saw her. During that meeting, however, she tells me, you're in the base, but you're not allowed to deploy. You didn't have a med board. You're not go downrange. You shouldn't even be here. It was everything I could do to make it out of her office. Be 20 steps to the bus stop before I broke down and cried huge alligator tears. I spent 30 minutes weeping. Got myself together, got back to my office. What's next? What happened next was a 4-month circus of misdiagnoses, therapies, poking, and a plethora of drugs. Nobody could figure it out. No one knew what was going on. Until one day I was sitting in court, juror's box, and I had a fuzzy spell. I had an episode. When I came out of that episode, the OBGYN next to me was taking my pulse. She was looking into my eyes, and she said, yeah, something's wrong with you. Thank you, ma'am. The next day, I had a flight to Walter Reed, where I spent 10 weeks undergoing treatment. Am I good, CJ? The first day I was here at Walter Reed on that 10-week TDY, I was diagnosed by a third-year resident. Baffled me at the time, but hey, I was diagnosed. I had complex partial seizures. I was having enough of them. And how we're going to fix that is drugs. You guys know when you see that commercial and there's a guy sitting in a tub on the top of a hill overlooking a valley and there's soft music playing? And then the narrator goes, side effects might include. They did the same thing for me with my drugs. Irritability, anxiety, weight gain. I had everything. Ultimately, it took 10 weeks before I was on 2 different drugs, at or above the recommended FDA limit of both of them, or as my neurosurgeon says, a manly dose. They determined that I was too drugged up to stay at Lodges, and that the best course of action for me would be to come and PCS to Andrews here locally and ultimately have surgery. So they said, you can go back to Lodges for 2 weeks, pack up all your stuff, and come right back. So that's what we did. So, sorry, I lost my place. January of 13, I went in for a temporal lobectomy. And that's where they took out a piece of my skull, electrocuted me for a week, saw how my brainwaves were reacting, and then went in and took out a piece of my brain before they put my skull back on. Before that surgery, the surgeon came in and said, hey, just so you know, side effects of this surgery might include. Thank you, ma'am. As long as it makes me seizure-free, let's go. My son was born in April of that year, and I started the medical board in May. It was a horrible experience, as I know some of you have been through or are going through. And I love the Air Force, and I wanted to stay in, but all signs were pointing to no and to being removed from duty. In April of 2015, I was placed on the temporary disability list. My career had been ripped away from me. I rebounded, and I got a job as a facilities project manager for the University of Nebraska in Lincoln. This was going to be a great experience for me. My boss's boss was a retired Air Force civil engineer. I knew it was going to be good. 9 months into that, he came to me and said, hey, so it's not really working out, and I'm going to offer you a 90-day severance package if you resign today. If you don't, your boss has every right to fire you tomorrow with 0-day severance. No brainer. Unfortunately, I was a failure. So we have this anxiety, we have this depression, and now on top of it, I'm a failure. Nonetheless, the beat goes on, and I got to move forward. I find a job as a project manager for a VA hospital in Columbia, Missouri. I get to help veterans. I get to be an engineer. This is going to be great. I went down one weekend to search for our house, and I came home. And that 5-hour ride home, something didn't feel right. When I pulled into my driveway, something just didn't seem right even more. I opened the garage door. My wife's van was gone. She didn't tell me she was going anywhere, but okay. Open the door into the living room. Everything is gone. My wife had packed up and taken everything, including my son. Those tears in that bus stop, nothing compared to that night. Absolutely nothing. My life as I knew it was over. Enter a dear friend from the first day of basic training 10 years prior. Having been a coach for the Air Force Wounded Warrior program before, she had seen how adaptive sports and resiliency recovery had healed many others with visible and invisible wounds. She encouraged me to attend my first event at Offutt Air Force Base that summer of 16, and I got to go. And I got a little bit of what it was, but not the full flavor. That following summer, AFW2 returned to Offutt, and I got to go again. I was accepted to come back to the program. This time, I attended the ambassador track. Ambassadors are a group of individuals within the Air Force Wounded Warrior program who go out and share their story with groups of individuals at the base, out in the community, or in an auditorium like this. That single week transformed my recovery and kickstarted my climb out of that deep, dark hole I had been living in. In learning to tell my story, I had to learn my story. And that just shot me out of the hole. I got to attend further camps where I learned about adaptive sports and how we can take everyday people or everyday activities and allow individuals with varying levels of disability to play on an almost even playing field. That week reignited my competitive spirit, and then I learned about the Warrior Games and the Invictus Games. I couldn't lose, and I had to do it. So, the Warrior Games are an Olympic-style event over a week where each service has their own team. I was selected to represent, and I got the honor to represent the Air Force. Did fairly well for myself. Got picked up to be on the U.S. team for the Invictus Games. So the Invictus Games are a version of the Warrior Games next level high. 18 nations attended with different levels of teams in Sydney, Australia of October of 2018. I got to be one of the lucky 70 members on Team USA. At that event, I got to compete in my three main sports: powerlifting, shot put and disc, and rowing. But I also got to sail. A month or two before the games kicked off, I got a phone call from one of the leads saying, "Hey, you have an opening. Have you ever sailed before?" And I said, "No, but I'll be on the team. Whatever you need, ma'am." And so I sailed. It was fairly easy and low profile in terms of how much pressure we had, because we were told all we needed to do was finish the race. We had 3 airmen and 1 Marine. Thank God the Department of the Navy was on the boat. Because us airmen didn't know what we were doing. I learned to enjoy sailing, and I found it to be calming and relaxing. It provided me a physical toll, a physical tax on my body, but there was more to it. And that's the underlying meaning of adaptive sports and recovery. I furthered my growth and recovery this past year at the 2019 Warrior Games. Again, I competed well, and I won. I'm almost done. Sorry. I think I'm getting the signal. Sorry. Are we doing good? Okay. But more importantly, as was mentioned, I'm back in blue. I am now a GS employee at Offutt Air Force Base, using one of those programs that was mentioned earlier. So they work. Ironically, I'm doing the same thing I was doing before I was told I'm unfit for duty, minus the uniform. Now, as a civil engineer at Offutt, I've been tasked with managing the runway replacement. And this is taking 1950s era piece of pavement that has been limped along for the last 30 years. We're ripping it out and we're installing all brand new. I'm also the project manager, or I'm one of the project managers helping with the flood recovery and the multiple mill cons associated with that minor water problem we had back in March. To say life is hectic and pressure-filled would be an understatement. I am reminded daily of the importance of these and the other projects I'm working on. But whenever life gets stressful, I simply step back and remind myself of the lessons I've learned through AFW 2. That's my story. It's still being written, but what is yours? Each of you have had your ups and your downs, I'm sure, and you've each reached an apex this year. Again, many congratulations and celebrations should be had, but where will you go from here? I would challenge each of you to find some sort of activity over this next year and use it as a resiliency tool. It might be starting a new sport, trying something new, or it might be learning to play a musical instrument, maybe painting a rock. You would be surprised at how such a mundane, easy activity can be so relieving to your mind, body, and soul. Thanks again for your time today. I applaud each of you as you have excelled in your careers. Keep it up and enjoy the week.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Hufford, for those inspiring remarks. At this time, we invite the Honorable James Stewart, performing the duties of Undersecretary of Defense for Personnel and Readiness, to join us at the lower stage for the presentation of the 2019 Secretary of Defense Awards to outstanding service members and civilians with disabilities. Now, these awards honor those who have supported the DoD mission, overseas contingency operations, and whose attributes best epitomize the qualities and core values of their respective military service or other DoD component. The 2019 award recipients have been selected by their organizations from among thousands of Department of Defense service members and civilian employees with disabilities from around the world. This year, awards are presented to 23 civilian employees and service members with a range of disabilities whose commitment to excellence contributed greatly to our ability to keep our nation safe and secure. Our first honoree is from the Department of the Army, Sergeant First Class John Hoxie. Sergeant Hoxie is a senior geospatial intelligence imagery analyst, United States Army South G2 Intelligence Operations, Fort Sam, Houston, Texas. Sergeant First Class Hoxie is responsible for all intelligence tasking, training, and readiness for intelligence personnel assigned to the Contingency Command Post in support of humanitarian assistance and disaster relief missions. Sergeant First Class Hoxie's accomplishments reflect great credit upon himself and the Department of the Army. Congratulations, Sergeant First Class Hoxie. From the Department of the Army, Ms. Veronica Benavides, Human Resources Specialist, Department of the Army Headquarters, Civilian Human Resource Agency, Aberdeen Proving Ground, Maryland. Co-presenting the award is Ms. Carol Burton, Director, Civilian Human Resources Agency. Veronica Sonia Benavides is recognized for her significant contributions with the Department of Defense. Ms. Benavides has improved efficiency in many human resource programs, including pay setting, management of the Delegated Examining Program, and special retirement coverage. Ms. Benavides demonstrates the Army values through a strong positive attitude, contributing wherever necessary to accomplish the mission. Congratulations, Ms. Benavides. From the United States Air Force, Lieutenant Colonel Emily H. Steinfort, Joint Operations, Plans and Readiness Branch, U.S. Indo-Pacific Command. Co-presenting the award is Brigadier General Ann B. Gunter. Lieutenant Colonel Steinfort has served in the U.S. Air Force for 15 years. She served as an ambassador for the Air Force Reserve Officer Training Corps at the Citadel, mentoring and leading cadets in activities and service projects for disabled veterans. She exemplifies the citizen airman through her support at the Air Force's Cyber Command and as the acting section commander for the Indo-Pacific Command's Air Force element. Lieutenant Colonel Steinfort is the recipient of numerous medals, and her accomplishments reflect great credit upon herself and the Department of the Air Force. Congratulations, Lieutenant Colonel Steinfort. From the Department of the Air Force, Ms. Brenda Villasenor, Acquisition Program Manager, U.S. Air Force Space and Missile Center, Los Angeles Air Force Base, California. Co-presenting the award is Mr. James Capizzi, Deputy Program Manager. Ms. Villasenor has excelled as a program manager, helping to turn around a troubled development program in the Department of Defense. Ms. Villasenor works to improve the workplace environment and help the personnel assigned to the OCX program. She also commits her time to giving back to the community. Ms. Villasenor's accomplishments reflect great credit upon herself and the Department of the Air Force. Congratulations, Ms. Villasenor. From the Department of the Navy, Corporal Matthew Maddox, recovering service member, Wounded Warrior Battalion East Detachment, San Antonio Military Medical Center, United States Marine Corps, San Antonio, Texas. Co-presenting the award is the Honorable Greg Slavanik, Assistant Secretary of the Navy for Manpower and Personnel Affairs, or Manpower and Reserve Affairs, rather. Corporal Matthew Maddox has served in the United States Marine Corps for 3 years. Since being assigned to Detachment San Antonio, Corporal Maddox has excelled in his recovery and rehabilitation while also completing required professional military requirements, including the Marine Corps Non-Commissioned Officer Academy. Corporal Maddox is active in various sports and recreation programs for wounded warriors and conducts a variety of volunteer work. Corporal Maddox's accomplishments reflect great credit upon himself and the Department of the Navy. Congratulations, Corporal Maddox. Also from the Department of the Navy, Mr. Sean Thompson, Electronics Engineer, Naval Air Warfare Center, Patuxent River, Maryland. Co-presenting the award again, the Honorable Greg Slavanik, Assistant Secretary of the Navy for Manpower and Reserve Affairs. Mr. Sean Thompson has proudly served the federal government for over 9 years. He has demonstrated exceptional leadership skills, ingenuity, and dedication while working on several platforms and programs supporting the Department of Defense. Mr. Thompson continuously exceeds expectations and goes above and beyond to ensure projects are completed on time and on budget. His achievements, both within the workplace and outside in the community, are consistently recognized by his colleagues and leadership. Mr. Thompson's accomplishments reflect great credit upon himself and the Department of the Navy. Congratulations, Mr. Thompson. From the Army and Air Force Exchange Service, Ms. Amina Grant, Material Handler Leader, Dan Daniel Distribution Center, Army and Air Force Exchange Service, Newport News, Virginia. Co-presenting the award is Ms. Karen Stack, Executive Vice President and Chief Logistics Officer for the Army Air Force Exchange Service. In her role as Material Handler Leader in DDDC Storage Department, Ms. Grant readily accepted the additional responsibilities and fulfilled them with solutions that are comprehensive, effective, and ahead of schedule. Her strong work ethic and dedication inspire her coworkers as well as those across the distribution center to support new ideas that improve our service to our customers. Ms. Grant's accomplishments reflect great credit upon herself and the Army and Air Force Exchange Service. Congratulations, Ms. Grant. From the Defense Contract Audit Agency, Mr. Paul Doyle, Senior Auditor, Upstate New York Branch Office, Armonk, New York. Co-presenting the award is Ms. Joni Youngblood, Deputy Regional Director. Paul Doyle is working on the IBM Watson Research Center multi-year incurred cost audit. He excels in his duties as a senior auditor and is a very highly valued member of the IBM team and the Upstate New York branch office. He demonstrates a strong work ethic, unquestioned integrity, subject matter expertise, effective leadership, and an unbounded willingness to help others within the branch office. Mr. Doyle's accomplishments reflect great credit upon himself and the Defense Contract Audit Agency. Congratulations, Mr. Doyle. From the Defense Contract Management Agency, Mr. Dylan Beckett, Industrial Specialist, Littleton, Colorado. Co-presenting the award is Ms. Linda Gallimore, Director, Equal Employment Opportunity. Mr. Dylan Beckett is an industrial specialist with 6 years of experience at Defense Contract Management Agency. He leads program delivery and schedule surveillance of 3 contractors, overseeing 337 contract line items exceeding $12 billion in government obligations. Mr. Beckett established 3 programs to improve mental health and personal resiliency and organized a paid week-long retreat providing post-traumatic stress disorder and alcohol addiction support. Mr. Beckett's accomplishments reflect great credit upon himself and the Defense Contract Management Agency. Congratulations, Mr. Beckett. From the Defense Commissary Agency, Mr. Christopher Carpenter, Teller, Customer Service Ambassador, Central Region, Rock Island, Illinois. Mr. Carpenter serves as a Teller and Customer Service Ambassador. Co-presenting the award is Mr. Kevin Henley, Director, Equal Employment Opportunity, Defense Commissary Agency. Christopher has committed himself to the commissary, to our patrons, and in his own words, just wants to see our customers happy. Mr. Carpenter's positive outlook on life, personality, hard work ethic, and daily choice to make our customers happy is a major reason customers shop the commissary. Mr. Carpenter's accomplishments reflect great credit upon himself and the Defense Commissary Agency. Congratulations, Mr. Carpenter. From the Defense Finance and Accounting Service, Ms. Carly Thompson, Financial Systems Specialist, Indianapolis, Indiana. Co-presenting the award is Ms. Teresa McKay, Director, Defense Finance and Accounting Service. Ms. Thompson has been a valuable member of the dispersing operations team. She continually seeks out additional training, solves problems by reaching out to others when she doesn't understand, and actively keeps internal and external customers apprised of the state of their request. Ms. Thompson is a team player and has received multiple peer awards. Ms. Thompson is also an advocate for others with disabilities. In fact, she serves as the chairperson for the agency's Special Emphasis Program for People with Disabilities. Ms. Thompson's accomplishments reflect great credit upon herself and the Defense Finance and Accounting Service. Congratulations, Ms. Thompson. From the Defense Intelligence Agency, Mr. Alan Embry, Security Specialist, Directorate of Operations, Global Support Team, Washington, D.C. Accepting the award on his behalf are Mr. Johnny Sawyer, Chief of Staff, Defense Intelligence Agency, and Vice Admiral Trey Whitworth, J2. Mr. Alan Embry has been a dedicated professional at the Defense Intelligence Agency since June 2016. Mr. Embry is a conscientious, dedicated, and productive security specialist who single-handedly authored 6 vital special security publications. He's an active member of the Red Cross as an emergency response coordinator, treatment foster parent for teenagers with mental health issues, and literacy instructor for adults with learning disabilities. Mr. Embry's accomplishments reflect great credit upon himself and the Defense Intelligence Agency. Congratulations, Mr. Embry. From the Defense Intelligence Agency, Mr. John Bob Rowicki, Intelligence Officer in Washington, D.C. Co-presenting the award, Mr. Johnny Sawyer, Chief of Staff, Defense Intelligence Agency, and Vice Admiral Trey Whitworth, J2. A former Marine captain, Mr. Bob Rowicki, oversees and manages joint terrestrial ISR requirements, development of the Battlespace Awareness Capability Portfolio. Now, this encompasses 25 programs supporting critical combatant command collection needs. His efforts directly contributed to investment decisions that will improve warfighter capabilities. As a wounded warrior, Mr. Bob Rowicki continues to volunteer his time and skills to the Semper Fi Fund and the Combat Wounded Coalition. Mr. Bob Rowicki's accomplishments reflect great credit upon himself and the Defense Intelligence Agency. Congratulations, Mr. Bob Rowicki. From the Defense Intelligence Agency, Ms. Sonia Hall, Intelligence Officer, Directorate of Intelligence Executive Production Division, Washington, D.C. Co-presenting the award again, Mr. Johnny Sawyer, Chief of Staff, DIA. Ms. Hall completed multiple certificate and degree programs while working full-time for DIA and combatant commands. She collaborates with all levels of staff and leadership to positively impact missions. She's a capable, result-driven DIA officer, working with peers daily and forming relationships and bonds, which allowed her to excel throughout her career at DIA. Ms. Hall's accomplishments reflect great credit upon herself and the Defense Intelligence Agency. Congratulations, Ms. Hall. From the Defense Information Systems Agency, Ms. Amina Ghostin, Information Technology Specialist, Risk Management, Executive Officer of the CIO, Fort Meade, Maryland. Co-presenting the award is Mr. Roger Greenwell, Chief Information Officer, Defense Information Systems Agency. Ms. Amina Ghostin is the Section 508 Coordinator for the Defense Information Systems Agency. Ms. Ghostin researched and recommended a firmware upgrade solution to make the agency's phones Section 508 compliant. She helped resolve long-standing network bandwidth issues with video phones used by employees with hearing disabilities, and ensured leadership made it a permanent solution. Ms. Ghostin serves as co-chair of DISA's People with Disabilities Employee Resource Group, and she publishes guidance on Section 508 compliance. Ms. Ghostin's accomplishments reflect great credit upon herself and the Defense Information Systems Agency. Congratulations, Ms. Ghostin. From the Defense Logistics Agency, Mr. Douglas Hurtado, Supervisor, Distribution, Anniston, Alabama. Accepting the award on Mr. Hurtado's behalf is Ms. Janice Samuel, Equal Employment Opportunity Director, Defense Logistics Agency. Mr. Douglas Hurtado's work ethic and drive for excellence have made him an invaluable part of the Weapons Division. He plays a primary role in small arms parcel shipping. Mr. Hurtado maintains accuracy and productivity standards throughout the year. He lives the warfighter first principle by anticipating problems and challenges before they happen and tackling them immediately. Mr. Hurtado's accomplishments reflect great credit upon himself and the Defense Logistics Agency. Congratulations, Mr. Hurtado. From the Office of the Inspector General, Ms. Cameron Lauren, Information Technology Specialist, Office of the Chief Information Officer, Mission Support Team, Alexandria, Virginia. Accepting the award on her behalf is Mr. Lyle Rasnick, Chief of Information Technology Business Operations for the Department of Defense Office of the Inspector General. Ms. Cameron Lauren has been working at the DoD Office of Inspector General for 5 years. Her work on the deployment and configuration of the project server used by several DoDIG components allowed for increased efficiency, timely completion of projects, and delivery to the customers. Ms. Lauren fostered effective collaboration between key DoDIG components, which facilitated the timely and accurate delivery of information to the Department of Defense, Congress, interest groups, and the general public. Ms. Lauren's accomplishments reflect great credit upon herself and the DoD Office of Inspector General. Congratulations, Ms. Lauren. From the Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency, Mr. Liam O'Sullivan, Regional Counterintelligence Analyst, North Region Counterintelligence Office, Defense, Andover, Maryland. Mr. Liam O'Sullivan exemplifies high standards of performance and dedication to the Defense Counterintelligence and Agency. He regularly provides operationally significant counterintelligence analysis to CI special agents, security specialists, and intelligence professionals while supporting the protection of sensitive and classified U.S. information. Mr. Sullivan provides direct analytic support to 7 CI special agents. Mr. O'Sullivan's accomplishments reflect great credit upon himself and the Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency. Congratulations, Mr. O'Sullivan. From the Missile Defense Agency, Mr. Willard Brooks, Logistic Management Specialist Sensors Program Directorate, Redstone Arsenal, Alabama. Co-presenting the award is Mr. John H. James, Jr., Executive Director, Missile Defense Agency. For the past 7 years, Mr. Willard Brooks has distinguished himself by his exemplary duty performance as the lead government logistics manager for the ANTPY-2 product office. As one of the leads for the Materials and Power Generation program, Willard interfaces with multiple stakeholders and advises on the status and options on multiple contracts in the portfolio. Mr. Brooks has excelled in his daily duties and motivated his colleagues in achieving support of the program. Mr. Brooks' accomplishments reflect great credit upon himself and the Missile Defense Agency. Congratulations, Mr. Brooks. From the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, Mr. Daniel Bluen, Imagery Analyst, Precision Engagement Division, Precise Points Branch East, Springfield, Virginia. Co-presenting the award is Ms. Beth Flanagan, Director of Diversity, Inclusion, and Equal Employment Opportunity, and Mr. John Freeman, Deputy Director of Talent Acquisition. Mr. Bluen has worked at the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency for over 2 years. He serves as the co-lead for the People with Disabilities Council, where he has strengthened the council's efficacy as the voice of NGA's personnel with disabilities. Mr. Bluen established and chairs the Autism Advisory Committee, which discusses accommodations, advancement, and hiring practices for those on the autism spectrum. His work led to NGA being awarded by the Careers and Disabled Magazine Public Sector Employer of the Year Award. Mr. Bluen's accomplishments reflect great credit upon himself and the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. Congratulations, Mr. Bluen. From the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, Mr. Jeffrey Wright. Co-presenting the award, Ms. Flanagan and Mr. Freeman. Mr. Wright served as the chair of NGA's Deaf and Hard of Hearing Council and was selected to serve as the chair of the Director of National Intelligence Community Affinity Network Recruiting, Hiring, and Retention Committee. As the NGA Deaf and Hard of Hearing chair, he led NGA's DHH community in the development of a video on American Sign Language, which is now an NGA corporate asset used to facilitate a culture of respect. Mr. Wright's accomplishments reflect great credit upon himself and the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. Congratulations, Mr. Wright. From the National Security Agency, Ms. Hillary Franklin, Strategic Analyst, Reviewer, Intelligence Threat Analyst, Fort Meade, Maryland. Co-presenting the award is Ms. Gloria Rivera Alvarez, Deputy Director of Diversity, Equality, and Inclusion at the National Security Agency. As a strategic analyst, Ms. Franklin provides policymakers and defense customers with critical insights into foreign malicious cyber actors. In March 2019, she completed a groundbreaking NSA intelligence assessment that was brought to the personal attention of the Secretary of Defense, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Director of National Intelligence, and other senior officials from the Department of Defense and Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Ms. Franklin was instrumental in publishing 22 strategic assessments, some of which were used in briefings and high-level reports. She serves as a Secretary of the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Intelligence Community Affinity Network. Ms. Franklin's accomplishments reflect great credit upon herself and the National Security Agency. Congratulations, Ms. Franklin. From the National Security Agency, Ms. Lene Popham, Staff Officer, National Cryptologic School, Officer of the Office of the Registrar, Fort Meade. Co-presenting the award, Ms. Rivera Alvarez. As Reasonable Accommodations Facilitator for the National Cryptologic School, Ms. Popham ensures that NSA students are able to focus on learning. Through her dedication, support, and advocacy, her students are able to maximize their operational capabilities and impact. Each year, she manages nearly 400 accommodation requests for students throughout the global enterprise. Her advocacy for those with disabilities has raised the bar for awareness and ensures direct access to education and training required to power NSA's vital mission. Ms. Popham's accomplishments reflect great credit upon herself and the National Security Agency. Congratulations, Ms. Popham. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me once again in congratulating all our individual awardees. And now, for the 2019 Secretary of Defense Awards to the DoD components and military departments for their efforts to implement exemplary programs, policies, and practices to advance a diverse and inclusive workforce. We begin with the Department of the Army. It's recognized with the Secretary of Defense Award for the Best Military Department in achieving and advancing employment opportunities for individuals with disabilities. Accepting the award, the Honorable James E. McPherson, senior official performing the duties of the Undersecretary of the Army. Among the military departments, the Army achieved leading scores related to overall employment of people with disabilities, the highest increase in the number of individuals with disabilities employed within the component, and the largest number of veterans with a 30% or greater disability rating hired. To achieve these successful outcomes, the Army adopted and implemented effective retention strategies, such as an internal mechanism to process, fund, and provide reasonable accommodations, including personal assistance services for employees with disabilities, and offered a mentoring program designed to support and retain employees with disabilities. Congratulations to the Department of the Army. The Defense Logistics Agency is recognized with the Secretary of Defense Award for the Best Mid-Sized Component in Achievements in Advancing Employment Opportunities for Individuals with Disabilities. Accepting the award is Ms. Kristen French, Chief of Staff, Defense Logistics Agency, and a number of friends. Among the mid-sized components of the Defense Logistics Agency is recognized for employing the largest number of individuals with targeted disabilities, as well as the largest number of veteran employees with a disability rating of 30% or higher. The Defense Logistics Agency further advanced employment of people with disabilities through the utilization of the Schedule A hiring authority and converting interns from the Workforce Recruitment Program to permanent employees. To achieve these outcomes, the Defense Logistics Agency has a comprehensive reasonable accommodations program, which includes a centralized means to request, fund, and deploy accommodations, including personal assistance services and a strategic plan to address accessibility challenges to technological programs and services. Congratulations to the Defense Logistics Agency. The National Reconnaissance Office is recognized with the Secretary of Defense Award for Best Intelligence Component Award. Accepting the award is Mr. Miguel Rivera, Director, Office of Equity and Inclusion, National Reconnaissance Office. Among the intelligence components, the National Reconnaissance Office received the highest scores for the number of individuals with disabilities. The component significantly increased its numbers of employees with disabilities from the previous year. Additionally, NRO has the highest reported number of veteran hires with a 30% disability rating or higher. Congratulations to the National Reconnaissance Office. The Joint Chiefs of Staff is recognized with the Secretary of Defense Award for Best Small-Sized Component in Achievements in Advancing Employment Opportunities for Individuals with Disabilities. Accepting the award is Mr. Lawrence Wark, Vice Director, J1. Among small-sized components, JCS achieved the leading score for providing employment opportunities for people with targeted disabilities. During the reporting period, the JCS increased the total number of employees with disabilities and has the largest number of veteran employees with a 30% disability rating or higher of any of the small-sized components. Congratulations to the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Thank you, Mr. Stewart, and congratulations again to all of our honorees. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, please help me welcome Mr. Sam Drummond, Associate Director, Disability Programs Directorate, for closing remarks.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Oh, you got the book.
Sorry about that, sir. Stole your book.
Y'all don't want me talking off script. Thank you very much. Before I begin my script, I would like to take an opportunity to recognize our partners from the Department of Labor, specifically the Assistant Deputy Secretary for the Office of Disability Employment Policy, Ms. Jennifer Sheehy. Thank you very much, ma'am, for being here today. First, I'd like to thank you for being here today and joining us. I hope you enjoyed our ceremony. Our team did a lot of work to get here. We'd like to thank the Secretary of Defense, as well as Mr. Hufford for keeping us on our toes. We didn't know whether to laugh or cry. And the Honorable James Stewart for being here today as well. Thank you, Mr. Johnson, for your great remarks, and we appreciate all that you do to make sure that I'm spending all the money that you give me. We see Mr. Booth here, and he's got an eye on that pocketbook too, so thank you, sir. We'd like to thank all of the DoD leadership for their continued efforts and commitment to advance the opportunities for individuals with disabilities throughout the Department of Defense. A special thanks to our network of disability advocates. Your enormous efforts across the Department of Defense has helped create a more innovative, effective, and diverse workforce. Your daily contributions cannot be understated. You play a role in making today a reality. Congratulations again to all the recipients and the awardees and their families. Thank you for being here. Can we please give them another round of applause? And before I conclude the ceremony, let me also thank the support team that put on all this work, Ms. Judith Davis, Joe Schultz, Krista, Flora, and Sean Kraft. Thank you guys for a great job. We appreciate all the work that you've done. A few housekeeping notes before we conclude. If you have a red badge, we took ours off. So if you got a red badge, please exit the auditorium and wait for an escort to help you exit the Pentagon. And if you need other assistance, please remain in your seats, and our group of volunteers will help us assist you. This concludes the 39th Annual Secretary of Defense Award Ceremony. Again, thank you very much.